Welcome to this YSL video tutorial. In this session we're going to teach you a little about how data validation works in Excel. So in this session what we're going to learn is how you validate cells, which is all about controlling what can be input into those cells. We'll show you how you can create your own custom input messages and custom error alerts, which is the fun bit, and also how you can create fancy drop-down list style validation in cells as well, amongst other things. So let's get started. Data validation is all about controlling what you can enter into certain cells on a spreadsheet. And here's a great example of where you'd want to use it. It's an input sheet for a business model for a chocolate shop. Now on this sheet I've got lots and lots of input cells highlighted in blue, and I'd like to control what values can be entered into some of them. First of all, my 3 rows of costs here. I'd like to make sure that I'm only allowed to have negative numbers in these cells. I'm going to use data validation in order to do that. So first job is to select all the cells you want to apply validation to, and then head to the Data tab of the ribbon. Here I'm using Excel 2010, but it's the same option in 2007 as well. And on the Data tab there's a Data Validation option. If I click on the Data Validation option first, I am provided with a Data Validation dialog. Now on the Settings tab, this is the most important one. This is what controls what can be entered into the cells. The other two will come on to, but aren't particularly important right now. So settings. I don't want to allow any value in these cells. I would like to allow a whole number first of all. When I select an option from the allow list, it subsequently populates the next few options. I'm going to change these options here. I don't want to choose a range of numbers. I don't want to choose a start point and an end point. I just want to say that my number that I enter into these cells must be less than or equal to, and then type in a value of 0. So that means the absolute maximum in any of these cells can only be 0. I'll quickly show you input messages. So if I click the input message tab, this is like a little instruction that pops up to the user. So let's call this cost input for the title, and the input message might be something like type in a number that is less than 0. Nice and easy. And then the error alert tab, this is the fun bit. This lets you control what sort of error message appears when your user gets it wrong. So let's type in a quick sensible title here, invalid cost, and then we can type in, well, anything is the error message. It accepts rude words, although I'm not actually going to type any rude words in right now. Let's just do something silly. Computer says no. There we go. Click OK, and there we go. Those cells are now validated. So if I just scroll back along to the left here, you can see immediately as soon as I have any of these cells selected, my input message appears. And should I now try to type in a value that's incorrect, so I'm going to try to type in a positive number here, hit enter, I immediately get my error message. Now with the style of message that I've chosen, which was the stop style, I can only do one of two things: either retry, which forces me to type in a new number, I'm going to get it wrong again. Alternatively, I can click cancel, which sets the cell back to its original value. So I'm going to do that. There we go. A couple of other useful things you can do here as well. When you validate cells, it's not guaranteed that the cells didn't already have invalid values in them. So what I'm going to do is head back to the data validation option. I'm going to click the drop down arrow this time and find the option called circle invalid data, and hopefully you can see that in the background it's circled this single cell which has a positive value of 400. Now clearly that was an input error before I'd validated my cells. So I'm going to select that cell now and modify it, and there we go, the validation circles disappear. A quick note about the different styles of messages you can apply as well. I'm going to select all of my validated cells and change their validation settings. Now a quick neat way to do that: if you click on any single cell that is validated and then press Ctrl and G on the keyboard, that displays the Go To dialog box. Find the Special button in the bottom left hand corner and click on that, and then in the bottom right hand corner of the next dialog box select Data Validation. Here I'm going to select the option called Same, so it's literally going to select all the cells which have the same data validation settings as the one that I have selected. So I'm going to click OK. Now all 3 rows of cells are now selected again. Back to the data validation dialog box, And very quickly I'd like to show you the two other styles of message. There's one called warning and there's one called information. Now I'm going to go for the warning style. It's not just about which pretty picture you see on the message though. If I click OK, I've actually changed how restrictive my validation settings are. So I'm going to try to enter an invalid value again now. And can you see that as well as my yellow warning triangle this time, I actually get different options on the bottom of the dialog box. I do get the opportunity to continue if I really want to. So it's a less restrictive style of validation. The final style, information, is even less restrictive again. I'll let you practice that one for yourself. But that's the basics of applying validation to cells to control what numbers can be entered into them. Now that I've shown you how to apply and modify validation settings, I'd like to show you how you can remove them should you need to. There's two main ways to do it. One's quite deliberate and the other's easy to do quite accidentally. So let me show you the deliberate method first of all. I'm going to do this just to one single cell to demonstrate the principle, but usually you'd select a range of cells to remove the validation. So select the cell you want to remove the validation from, head to the Data Validation dialog box, and on any of the three tabs, find the Clear All button and click on it. That simply sets the dialog box back to its original blank value effectively. Choose OK, and you can immediately see my input message disappears, and I can type in whatever I want into this cell. Okay. Now the other way of removing validation can be easily done accidentally. So let's see. Somewhere down here I've got a cell that has a number of -100 in it, and I'm going to just simply copy by right-clicking and selecting copy, and then paste by right-clicking and pasting onto that cell. Now it looks as though I've just pasted the value in the formatting of that cell, but I've actually also accidentally overwritten the validation of this cell as well. It's really easy to do accidentally, so that's one thing you do need to be careful of. When you copy and paste a value of a cell onto a validated cell, the validation settings are copied as well. So because that cell had no validation, it's copied no validation settings. The final thing I'm going to teach you about validation is how to create fancy drop-down lists. So here in my input sheet I have a promotion section where I'm running different promotions, and I've got several areas where I want to be able to select which month my promotion runs in. Now at the moment I have to type in different month names. What I want to be able to do is select those from a list. So the starting point for this, it works best if you already have your list of entries typed in somewhere. So handily I've prepared one earlier here on sheet 1. Here's my list of months. Another thing that will help enormously is if you have range names. That's particularly important if you're not using Excel 2010. I'll explain why as we work through, but for now I'm just going to get you to do this. Select the 12 cells comprising my list of months, and then find this area at the top of the spreadsheet called the name box. Click into it, and then type in a name that you would like to give to these cells. I'm going to call mine list of months. It's important that you don't use spaces, and it's very important that once you finish typing, you press Enter. Now that gives that block of cells, whenever I select that entire block, a label called list of months, and I'm going to use that on my input sheet. So back to the input sheet, and select the cell or cells that you want to validate, and head back to the Data Validation tool on the ribbon. On the dialog box this time, I would like to allow a list. The only thing I have to provide for my list is the source. Now, this is where it's important to have a range name if you're not using Excel 2010. In Excel 2010, it's perfectly possible to click on this Cell Selector button here, and then to click onto a different worksheet. But in earlier versions of Excel, you can't move away from the worksheet that you're on. So, for that reason, as long as you can remember your range name, you can type in this, equals, which is important, you must use an equal sign, and then if you remember the name of the range name, list of months. This checkbox is also quite important in cell drop-down. And once you're happy that all those settings are correct, click OK. Now hopefully you'll be able to see whenever I select this cell once again, I have a drop-down arrow that immediately appears. When I click on the drop-down arrow, it provides me with a list of months to select from. Excellent. So that's how data validation works in Excel. If you've enjoyed this training video, you can find many more online training resources at www.wiseowl.co.uk.